Alright, busia for memo bibi akwa basancha chu bibi a mfamba eye sunkwa TV so busia for audio bi a me ba be bo ache mo enya asem ketua ntokwa bi a esi no enya asem ketua kwa a chese aba drawing ipac meeting na chese ekoso no akua donko ye ma me akua donko esori a attack eye John Dramani Mahama pan na chese enya asem ketua na chese amanfo bibi na chese sa time no attack John Dramani Mahama no na nka wo say easy boss Mahama Jane Mensah etimi ekache ne say etimi stopping no abra na che say ma ekuadonko attack John Dramani Mahama no mummy nkuti ensen nchi mess also be subscribe to my channel or be like odo wadun che so be comment section kama.
We embrace what we are doing because we try to be inclusive and to ensure that nobody is left behind. Thank you.
Just to add briefly to the applauding of the commission, I think it's also important for us to state that when you look at registration of voters in our part of the world, in West Africa, Ghana is the only country that has been able to ensure that almost everyone who is qualified is on the roll. When you look at the data from the Statistical Service, almost 97% of the people who are eligible in Ghana are on the voters register. The Ghana Statistical Service will tell you that 2024 Ghanaians who must be 18, almost 19,300,000. And on our register, we have 18.7. That's almost 90% of those who are eligible. And when you look at their own data, Ghana's population, almost 56% of the population are on the voters register. And when you look at our sub-region, no country, the only country that is doing 55% is Cape Verde. And Cape Verde's population is almost 500,000. It's less than 600,000. So clearly there is something Ghana's Electoral Commission is doing. So we expect that the applause will be more. That doesn't suggest that if there are problems, we shouldn't talk about. As the chair said, this is not the exhibition we are doing. The exhibition has been done, but just to ensure that we wrap up everything, ensure a very credible system, the commission is doing that. We recognize that in some places, internet access is a problem. That's why we have 5 days. People can reach out to their friends to do the check-in for them. And as we have maintained, within the 5 days, if there are concerns, report to our offices. But after the 5 days, you will not have that opportunity to do so again. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon once again. Just to quickly address the issues that were raised by Dr. Rashid Tanko Computer. The first one had to do with the figures. As we all recall, 2 weeks ago, we did state for everybody's hearing that the figures that we had there were provisional and there was still work in progress to clean up the register. We also did mention to you that there were issues that were coming up from the districts. The RRO was yet to sit, and therefore when they sit, it was pretty obvious that those numbers will change. And that is why the word provisional being used is key. So you do not expect that if it's a process that is ongoing and is being reviewed, the numbers will remain static. Indeed, until the final register is certified, those figures can change. DRRO sat and DRRO took certain decisions. DRRO said, take certain people off the register, or some people who appealed came. So there were movements. All the lists got affected. Exceptions list got affected. Multiple lists got affected. Valid motor list got affected. Even missing list got affected because the numbers have changed. So please let us not make it seem as if the numbers will be static for so long as it remains provisional. And even this exercise we are doing now, up until the 19th of October, where we have given you the opportunity to come and make changes or to raise issues, those numbers will change. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't use the numbers that we have now for planning purposes. We would. Otherwise, would we wait for everything to be done before we do it? Is that what we are saying? That is why enough buffer has been put into it. 2% has been added to allow for these changes that we anticipate will happen. Okay, so that is the explanation for it. And Dr. Tanko, please, as at 2020, when this register was created, I can tell you the statistics that we have for multiples and exceptions. So at the end of 2020 in November, the total number of people who were on the exceptions list was 13,997. As at 2020, when we finished that register. Okay, so it's not as if that number came out of the blue. Then you had multiples. Multiples was 15,860. Since then, we've had several iterations of registrations. And every time you have a registration, there's a propensity for somebody to be put on the exceptions list or on the multiples list. So that figure changes. And indeed, every time we go for adjudication committee meetings, the figures that we have are the numbers for that particular registration, and they end up being added to the total. So let us not make it seem as if when we go and sit at adjudication committee, the numbers that we have are the actual numbers. They go and they add up to it. So please, I think that we need to, yes. And multiples list, like we've said, it's not up to us. We don't determine who goes onto the multiples list. If a registration is done and your fingerprints match, you will be put on the multiples list. Where the system is not able to clearly determine where.
Yeah, no. And so, I have Miss Venice, I for the Conti, and no, I'm my friend, my father, Roman father, and the next morning, Mumu Sammy Bill now, me who I bet you, who I bet you, and Joffo, Munia, no, Munia, on what you want. The American ceremony party, no, I'm a tea, but the party, no, 2011. Anna, the register me 2012. Me anga sana mte party, no. Me fat man will be fatty mo. Man will be fatty and come here home. Me ana mte party na sanya register me Dr. Frejai. Efenso na mete party no and someone on the casa be kind baby da ebe ha me ma yisi pen ni mpani fo ati ase se and someone mete na bonte efa do mahama ho me kan ma mpani ni firi se wa yi ne ho afirim se wono wo ko pen wo be anasa adwuma bi mu na se wo sa ko fere timi fofora wo do dibira to ho timi ho so na dibira to ho and to make a cancer of my dada. A man now, Cassa, no cassette, yammy. Say, a banner a tree, or banner, you know, no can be. Your Mahama can be say, and say, Guy may a family. Now, may baby no me you won't. I ban and say, I will use him penny force the by say, will be a quite treasure.